For once you have tasted flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skywards. For there you have been, and there you will long to return. My name is Josh Christensen.
Okay, and describe the feeling of skydiving in general, like the feeling of being in the air.
Yeah, it's incredibly unique. The closest thing that I've been able to relate it to is swimming, because you're in a fluid environment where there's a force that's kind of supporting and holding you up, but it isn't solid. You're able to press and move around in it. You can press right through it. And so in some ways it's very chaotic because of the speed that you're moving, the sound, the feeling of the wind around you. But at the same time, it's also almost meditative in the sense that your mind, because it's processing so much information, especially as a new skydiver, it sort of it forgets to focus on any past or any future or anything else that's going on in your life. All of that stuff just falls to the wayside, and you really live in that one moment on a almost second to second basis. Yeah, so that's kind of the meditative side to it, I think. A couple of them that we did recently were up in Ohio, and so we were setting the state record for the largest formation of head-up flyers. So we were literally flying in a position very similar to sitting in a chair, and these formations look similar to like a snowflake, and so there's an incredible amount of precision and skill that goes into those. Very, very fine tuning, and everyone has to be in a specific slot, and everyone has to be built onto the formation in a very specific way for that record to count. And so over the course of a weekend, we set 3 different records: the head up record, the head down record, a sequential record, which means you build a formation, you break certain pieces of that formation off, and you move those pieces around each other and then rebuild the formation in a slightly different way. So the head up and the head down records were incredibly challenging, but also they're rewarding, because when you're working together to accomplish something like that, there's a very strong sense of camaraderie and a goal that you're working towards, as opposed to a typical day of skydiving where we're out there, we're just having fun, we're goofing off, and it's okay if something's a little out of position, somebody doesn't quite make it into the formation, you just go up and do the jump again. Whereas when we're trying to set a record like that, there's a little bit more on the line. Tensions are a little bit higher, but everyone really comes together as a group in that sense. So this was during the head down world record tryouts. We were going to. The world record is an invitation only event, And so we were going to attempt to build a 200-way formation was going to be the world record. During the tryouts, though, we were building 40 to 50-way formations. And during one of those jumps, a skydiver close to the center of the formation came down and ended up almost on the back of the skydiver in front of him, which created a drive that pushed him backwards into a friend of mine who was behind him. We ended up with essentially a domino effect is where I'm going with this. And as he drove backwards and ran into the person that was in front of me, this person went careening back and ran into me, which ultimately his heel ended up hitting in my ribs and hit with so much force that it compressed my rib cage and fractured 2 of my ribs out here on the side. Even though the impact was in the front near my sternum, it ended up compressing and popping 2 of my ribs on the side. So that was probably my least favorite skydive to date. But I have some excellent video to show from it, and it's one of the only times I think maybe the only time in my life I've ever broken a bone. So, if you're gonna break something, you might as well go big with it,
You were talking to me earlier about the big way angle.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what is that like? Until explain that.
So this was in Chicago at an event called Summerfest. Typically, a couple of times every year, a skydiving drop zone will put together events called boogies, and people, depending on the size of the drop zone or the event itself, people will travel from all over the world to attend these events, which are anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks long. And Summerfest is one of the largest in the world. So during this event, it's typical to get very, very high caliber and highly skilled skydivers from around the world into one place so that we can organize these very challenging jumps together. And some of these jumps are called angles, where we are exiting the plane and we're diving at a very fast speed, but we're also creating movement. And in most cases, half of the group will be flying on their bellies, their belly towards the earth, and half will be on their back. And so we build these formations that are very, very close to each other. And in most cases, we'll be moving anywhere from 180 to 230 miles an hour, and typically within a couple of feet of each other. And it almost looks and feels kind of like a squadron of like fighter jets that are moving through the sky at these incredibly fast rates of speed with no protection on us aside from just a plastic helmet. And we're just using the angle of our bodies to press and to lean on the wind to create these drives and these movements. If you're interested in getting into skydiving, my first recommendation is, well, there are two, and you could do either one to begin. It would either be a tandem skydive, or it would be coming into the indoor tunnel and working in one of the indoor tunnels. So A tandem skydive is usually the way to go, as opposed to taking the route that I did. When you do that tandem skydive, somebody else is doing a majority of the work for you. They're taking care of all the key components of the skydive, and that allows your mind time to enjoy the situation that you put yourself into, to be able to enjoy the view and realize that you're flying through the clouds, and just to sort of take it all in a different way. The indoor tunnel is incredibly valuable. It's a controlled environment that you can spend extended periods of time in. So it allows us as instructors to be able to communicate with a student far more effectively than we can in the sky, and then to be able to step out of the wind and discuss exactly which adjustments we need to make on somebody's body before stepping right back into the wind and then immediately implementing those changes. So it allows you to progress far more rapidly. Yeah, but those are typically the two routes that sort of open up the gateway to the skydiving world and the entire sport of skydiving.